up, everybody? This is Kristin Gutierrez. I am the Say Yes Queen, and I just had this super fun, exciting, engaging conversation with Kim Sorrelle, and I can't wait for you to tune in.
Welcome to the show. I am so glad you're here. You're going to be so glad you're here. I am Kim Sorrelle, and I'm a speaker. I'm an author. I get to do a lot of fun things in life. My favorite thing, though, is meeting incredible people. Today is no exception. Kristen and I have known each other for a while. Kristin Gutierrez. Isn't that beautiful? I love it. And we've known each other for a while. We've been friends, and I love having friends on the show who are doing incredible things, and you're going to hear all about Kristen and what she's got going. Kristen, welcome to the show.
Kim, thank you so much for having me. Meeting you has really been a highlight of the last couple of years for me, and the bonds we've shared and the experiences we've had. So it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Well, it's a pleasure for me to have you here. Yes, I think some of our greatest bonds have happened on sofas.
Yes, I love the midnight mastermind will forever go down as I don't know, top 5 experience of my life.
Yeah, no kidding. That was so fun. So, Kristen, I want people to get to know you and who you are. And so I want to hear about 8-year-old Kristen.
Oh, oh, Kim, I love when you ask us this question. 8-year-old Kristen was full of curiosity, living in her imagination, and really she was a child torn between 2 houses. My parents were divorced, and I was constantly seeking love and validation through play with my siblings, and then also just with my parents and in sports. I think at age 8, we started playing soccer. It's not like kids these days, and I have a 4-year-old and 6-year-old who play soccer so young, right? I think more in this generation, we started sports a little later, but yeah, that's who 8-year-old Kristen was. Just a full of life, charismatic, curious driven kid.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like we could have been good friends when you were 8. If I was 8 at the same time, which I wouldn't have been because you're much younger than I am. But if it were to happen, we would have been good friends because, yeah, I mean, there's so much to be curious about in the world. And I feel like that's something that gets lost sometimes with kids, right? Is that let's let them be curious and use their imaginations and not squelch it. Did you ever feel like you had that done to you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Did you have the same?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Just because people say things, they can be well-meaning, but sometimes maybe not well-meaning. I don't know what people's motives are, but yeah, as a kid, you're so curious and you're daydreaming, and then you're told daydreaming is bad. Well, no, daydreaming is good. Having an imagination and thinking about things, maybe you should pay attention in math class. I get that. But daydreaming is a good thing, and being curious and investigating and figuring stuff out. I mean, that's what kids should be doing. That's part of the joy of being a kid.
Yeah. My whole life, every year that went until just recently, I was told to stop living in my imagination, always by well-intended people, either that knew me personally or just outside influences, like you're saying. And it was only when you and I, as we share one of our same mentors, when I came into her world and I learned that using our imagination is what helps create the biggest impact, right, around us, and therefore lots of wealth. Love them or not, Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, the founder of Disney, all of these people, they're living in their imagination to create these incredible products and experiences. And so learning this skill now, much later in life, that it's a skill that we should be honing and refining. My 6-year-old, he'll say out loud, "Mom, I'm using my imagination. I'm creating." I've allowed him to have his own YouTube channel. I didn't force that on him because I'm an entrepreneur. It's like he imagined wanting to have one. As you know, like kids just watch YouTube all the time now. It's kind of funny.
Uh-huh.
But
Yeah.
yeah, this idea that like we not only lose it as we get older, but we're told by outside forces that it's bad. So how can I have an influence with my children to like not only that like not lose it as they get older, but to like really, really, really get into it now while they're kids.
Yeah, and recognize the value of it. And
Yeah.
yeah, that it's not just, I don't know, daydreaming for the sake of daydreaming, but dream,
You know,
I mean, let people dream, right?
I was just at a conference and there was an 8-year-old who was an author.
Wow.
I
How
don't know.
cool is that?
How cool is that, right? Like here you and I are authors, but like at a much later stage in our life, how cool of his parents to encourage
Mhm.
that, if
Mhm.
that's like the path. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. I love that. Yeah, it's interesting because I think too often we don't recognize that kids have so much more to offer than we let them, and
True.
we can learn just as much from them as they learn from us. And that there's something just so special and incredible about being a kid and being able to dream. And, like when I was 8 years old, Kristen, I got to tell you, not when I was 8 years old, when I was 10 years old, I went to Disneyland for the first time. You mentioned Walt Disney, right? And one of the things that I love about like Walt Disney and other people that you mentioned is that they're, yes, they're dreaming of things. They're dreaming of things that don't currently exist, right? And that you think, wow, how can they even dream of those things? And big things. They're dreaming about big things and making big things happen, being confident enough to make big things happen. But like Walt did it for me. He did it for you. He did it so that people had this wonderful place to go. So at 10 years old, I went to Disneyland in Anaheim, and I was so excited. I got this new dress, and I could not wait to walk down Main Street because I just knew I was going to be discovered. I just knew it. I knew that I was going to be the next Annette Funicello or somebody, right? They were just gonna come out of the woodwork and go, oh my word, we've been looking for you. It didn't happen. I'm still waiting. Disney, if you're listening, I'm still waiting for that moment. But but yeah, I mean, that's part of the imagination, right? Is that
Yes.
something can happen, that things can happen. Yeah.
Well, I mean, honestly, when I was 10 or 12, and I'm from Indiana, so we came out to California and we went to Hollywood. And I still to this day, how many 30 plus years later, get grief from my parents because I brought my audition clothes.
Oh, oh my gosh.
We were meant to be friends in life. I was like
That's
convinced.
so, that's so, of course you were going to be discovered. You were in Hollywood. It's where people get discovered. I don't know if you got to go to a certain drugstore and have a chocolate soda. I don't know what it takes, but oh my gosh, that is so funny. Yeah, we are way more alike than than anything. Okay, so you grow up. It couldn't have been easy, a divorce home, dealing with two families. Like, how do you think that affected you, or was it just your normal? So you just dealt with it? What was it like for you?
It is. It does become your normal. And divorce. I'm now divorced twice. It's like an admission I don't need to make on the show, but like the point is like very real. Um, it's very common for better or for worse now. My kids, especially my 6-year-old, there's several friends in his class. So it takes like the stigmatism away, right?
Mhm.
And back then it was just less and less and less talked about. So at home though, it was very normal. And it was not without growing pains, but now that I'm living through that on my own with kids, it is a very, very, very different environment. And I'm probably consciously or subconsciously choosing the path I'm choosing for myself, let alone for my kids, as a divorced unit now because of some traumas that I experienced as a kid.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I would imagine. Because it's like with anything, with
Mhm.
how your mother mothered, my mom was a wife, right? Like I knew what I liked about it, knew what I didn't like about it, knew what I want to change about it, right? And so that it's better for your kids or better for your whoever in your life. And so, yeah, I imagine that would be quite a thing to learn what you liked and didn't and what can be different and make it better for your sons who are so adorable and wonderful in every single way. So then you somehow got into sales. Was that always your dream, Kristen? Did you go, man, when you were 12 years old and you brought your audition clothes where you're going, okay, I'm either going to be an actress or I'm going to be the most incredible salesperson ever in the history of the world?
No, but are you like, did you follow in your parents' footsteps with what you do as like for work or what you ever did for work? Like, I'm just curious for
Yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah. My dad was an entrepreneur and I was an entrepreneur. So yes, yeah, I sure
Yeah.
did.
My
Yeah.
dad was in sales, my mom was in sales. So growing up, they would say I could sell ice to Eskimos.
Yeah.
I just had this very like a little bit of charismatic, a little bit of just like negotiation ability to, sales wasn't a bad thing. It was really just like the way the world kind of worked. Like I would say my sister is an attorney and she's a salesperson
Mhm.
because there's multiple angles in which you can see sales or divorce. And just innately growing up, I chose to see sales as something powerful. And then I accidentally got into it when I graduated college. I did, you remember the Yellow Book?
Oh yeah, yeah. Yellow Book. Yeah. All the ads. Yeah.
Yeah. So I did an internship for Yellow Pages in college. And then that was like my first job out of college. And it was not good. It was not good, but it taught me lots of life lessons. And I just always, now as an entrepreneur, I teach other entrepreneurs how to make more money. But so much of that is sales because they don't
Mhm.
have a 20-year corporate sales background like I have. Yet here we are as entrepreneurs selling people on why to join our podcast or on why to buy our offer, why to bring us in as a keynote, whatever that is. And it's just like really the art and strategy of talking to people.
Yeah. Well, it's so true. Everything is sales.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. I was talking to a friend the other day and he's like, everything is sales. Even when I met my wife, I had to sell myself to my wife. And it's really kind of true. Everything is sales. I think one thing I'm curious about your opinion on is I feel like sales has changed in that it used to be so much more personal and we've gotten away from some human connection when it comes to sales. But the people that I know that are the most successful at sales are the ones who truly care about the people they're selling to.
Yeah. Well, yes, yes, and yes, and yes. Because now you can like sell things on TikTok and Instagram, and then now there's like faceless. So I think like the channels of selling have 10x or multiplied. But I agree with you. I think at a very human level, whether you're selling language translation services like I did in corporate or yellow page advertising or like high ticket offers, I think the best salespeople curate their messaging, make it personal, and whether they're using mass outreach strategies or not, it feels very connected.
Mhm.
Like, and how you connect to a person if they're somebody who owns a multi-million dollar. We talked about Steve Jobs. So Apple, Google, Microsoft, they spend hundreds of millions of dollars a year on translation services.
Mm.
Right? And so they're spending 80 plus million with like one vendor. So like it's like this crazy, crazy, crazy amount. So when you're selling to a person who owns a budget that big, that's a
Mm.
different type of feeling than when you're selling to another entrepreneur. But it's still like, how do you connect what you're selling to the outcomes that they need?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
every person or budget is so different and unique. You really need to curate that connection.
Right.
And
Right.
people who aren't professionally, whether it's like professionally trained or just innately really good at it. Or can I tell you that when I became an entrepreneur, selling to other entrepreneurs, I had to relearn all of the sales strategies that got
Really?
me 20 years. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
imagine?
So in what way? Like what?
Because selling to a corporate budget, to a P&L as they're called, is different than selling to you. So like, even if you're a big wig executive who works at a corporation, if I'm selling to you and your personal budget to buy personal development or learn the art and strategy of high ticket offers, it's different than selling like a $3 million language translation program. Is where the budget comes from is out of your household or it's out of like my budget. And I might very much care about the budget I manage in corporate, but if it's a different sales psychology.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. I haven't ever thought about that, but I can see where that's true. Like so many of it would be the same, but also so different because when it's personal, when it's so personal,
Yeah.
it is different.
Yeah. And so it's the nuance. I think this is what so many people miss in life. And that's why you think you had that comment. Because a lot of people are like, oh, you didn't say this, but like sales is sleazy or like it's not personal anymore, right? Like those of us who make it personal, it's because we're looking at the nuance. Everybody is different, everything is unique. And my old CEO used to say, turn the dial just 1%. It's like a
Mhm.
1% shift, maybe from a corporate budget to a personal, but that 1% shift is all that matters. Or you're
Mhm.
just 1% away from your next sale, but we all quit when the going gets tough.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah, so true. Yeah, that is true. Like you get too many no's and then you walk away instead of going, well, I worked with a guy who always said, every no is just one step closer to a yes. And I thought, yeah, I like that. That's so true. Because you're not going to be everybody's thing, right? And you don't have everybody's solution, but for the people that you do, and that's one thing that I love about you, Kristen, is your heart is
Mhm.
that it's not just about being an entrepreneur to you
Mhm.
from what I see the outside looking in is it's not about making money as much as it is about having an impact on people's lives.
Yeah. Isn't it like so true? Because I know you're doing the podcast, right? And you have so many other avenues that you pursue, and it really is for the impact.
Mhm.
But I always heard that growing up, but like, when did you discover it? Because I only discovered it like recently. I don't.
Yeah. Well, the businesses that I've been in over the years, like I was in events for 30 plus years and one of the businesses that I owned. And so thousands of weddings over the years, thousands and thousands of weddings. And selling a wedding different than selling a car,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
you're going to have a relationship with this person for a year. They're going to be calling you and asking you questions and whatever. So they need to be comfortable with you and you need to be comfortable with them. And so, but I've always looked at sales as and because again, everything is sales, is what is the benefit I'm providing? What do they need and what's the benefit I'm providing so that I can have an impact, so
Yeah.
that I can really help them out.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think it can be easy. Like you go to college and you're taught all this stuff, right? And you go into your first corporate position and here you are, and this is what you've been taught. So these are the things you need to do. And then you realize what you've been taught doesn't always translate into real life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what
I,
about you? When did you realize that impact is really what you were passionate about?
at the end of my corporate career, I won a Stevie Award for something I called the outcomes-based framework. And it was driving my big translation clients to outcomes, because outcomes ultimately are what matter in anything in life, right? But it's so funny because nobody gets it in that industry or just in general, right? It's always like you're standing up, you're doing a huge presentation to a group of executives at Apple or a tech company nobody's heard of. And it's all, as the vendor, it's all me, 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 me. This is how you're going to benefit. And there's a way to do it. And I got lots and lots of professional sales training in all of my career, like companies would bring in sales training. And you kind of take the best of all of it. And then you really like actually just, you keep listening, you keep learning. And at the very end, when I won this award, it was like, oh, it's because it really is about them. And I
Mm.
know that sounds silly, but like, so there's that. But I also always heard as a kid growing up, oh, do what you love. You'll never work another day for your life. But all I did, I thought I loved climbing the corporate ladder, and I did. But at the same time, if you asked me in an interview because I was in sales, I would always say money was my biggest motivator. And that's not wrong. In a sales role, you need to be hungry for commissions to drive the action that creates the sales. Like, it's not wrong. It truly was my motivator. So becoming an accidental entrepreneur because I got let go from my six-figure job unexpectedly on April 17th, 2023, and like leaning into monetized sales expertise, even though I don't necessarily sell sales consulting anymore to other organizations, the day on April 17th at 2 p.m., the same day I got let go, the same day I won my first client, I would walk outside and like pat my chest and be like, this is the greatest gift. And it
Mhm.
wasn't that, yeah, they were paying me whatever they were paying me to consult, which meant, okay, maybe I'll survive without my job. It really meant like, this is the impact that they were talking about when they said, do what you love and you'll never work another day in your life. I get the chills. And so now it's
Wow.
just a constant iteration of like you're almost chasing fulfillment by how can I serve the most amount of people? And like not, and like totally leaning back and detaching from the money, knowing that the money will come.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So, okay. I need to unpack this a little bit because what you said is so true. And the impact, when you get to the point where you realize that people are the most important thing in the world. And so you're helping you with what you do, whatever it is you do, you're helping people, and that's your driver. It changes your life. That changes your life for sure. But it also changes how you present and how people view you, and because you can tell when somebody's authentic and when somebody's not, right? But you lost your job. Like you had two little kids. How old were your kids at the time?
Well, five, yeah, 2 and 5.
Yeah. So a 2-year-old, a 5-year-old, and you were making good money at this
Yeah.
job. And all of a sudden, obviously a very big day because you remember not just the month and year, but the actual day, April 17th. And so, what were your thoughts then? What was that like for you?
Isn't that funny? I talk on like big stages telling this story that like as humans, we seek comfort. And so often it's more natural to seek comfort in our couch or in binge watching a show or nowadays, or depending on when people end up listening to this, it's like, let me like seek comfort in putting other people down. Oh, my employer did this to me. I like to say I turned what happened to me into what happened for me by seeking comfort in imperfect action. And I really did like, I was sitting on that Zoom call, texting my then husband, like, I think I'm being let go. Like, you just kind of know. Well, if you've never happened to you, like, you just know, like, what I, you just, well, why is my senior vice president of HR on the call? Right.
Yeah.
Okay, not good, Kristen. And it only lasted 10 minutes, which is also crazy. I was like, what do I do about my kids? Like, what do I do? I was like, really so not only that, it's not easy to say I sought comfort in action because the couch or a mimosa is a much more logical choice because it's paralyzing. You are literally like, I don't know how I'm going to pay my mortgage, let alone. And so I do sometimes talk about how much mountains of debt we had because we were renovating my grandparents' home 2,000 miles away. And the story gets very complicated very fast. And it really just makes you think like, we always have a choice. And the choice I chose that day was to not stop moving. So I never put anybody down. I never said, woe is me. And a lot of those things might have been right, but I simply LinkedIn launched my business that day. I was like, I'm LinkedIn launching my own business. One thing I love to do is consulting other organizations. One thing I love to do is da 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 da. And through that imperfect action, not really knowing in quotes, like what I was doing yet, but that I needed to just get on the phone and talk with as many people as I could. People were making kind suggestions. Oh, talk to my company. I think they're hiring. Or, hey, we could actually like benefit from using you as a consultant. And then I had to do even the harder thing, which was ask people I knew needed me to have a call with me. And it sounds so easier than it is in reality. And I would say to one of my mentors, why is selling for myself harder than selling for an entity? And he said, because it matters. It matters so much more now. And once I leaned into more action, so I have this 4-step framework to like say yes and figure it out, right? Once I just kept leaning in, celebrating, taking another step, like making a decision, the phone never stopped. I think for 2-3 days straight, like I must have talked on the phone for hundreds of hours. And that snowballed into a thriving business, which I don't know. At the end of the day, it was just still barely enough to pay all of our debt, and a lot of other things happened in the meantime. And I'm not trying to like skirt the story. It's just like I want to stay focused on the point.
Yeah, well, I mean, good for you. And you're right. I mean, we have a choice. Like with everything, we choose, right?
Yeah.
We choose how we react to whatever it is that life throws our way or the things that happen. And years ago, my father and my father-in-law both lost jobs like at the same time.
Oh.
And it was so interesting, Kristen, because my dad was an entrepreneur. He'd started this company, but then in the 70s, you know, things were not good financially in this country. And he sold out to this conglomerate and whatever. So he was working for them, had stock, but was working for them. And he started a plastics recycling company with one of my brothers. And they gave an ultimatum. They thought that he shouldn't be having anything on the side. And so they said, you either stop that company or you lose your job. And he's like, well, I have to walk away. Right. So he wasn't going to stop building a company with my brother. And so he lost his job. My father-in-law was in insurance sales and lost his job. So with my dad, he's like, oh, okay, that's fine. What's the next thing? What can I do now? You know, what does life have to offer? Great. You know, I'm not in the office for 90 hours a week or whatever. Like my dad was a workaholic. He was there all the time. I don't have to go there anymore. So now I've got all this time to think about what I can do and be creative and, you know, launch something new and watch things happen. And, but at my in-laws, everyone was crying. And my husband's 2 little sisters who were real little at the time, I don't know, like 8 and 9 or something, went to their bedrooms and brought down their piggy banks and told their dad they could have all the money. And like everybody was so sad and didn't know what the future was going to hold. And it was just 2 completely opposite experiences, really in the same situation. And it's like you get to pick. You get to pick. Are you going to crawl under a rock? I mean, you might crawl under a rock for a minute because, you know, you can be sad. It's okay to be sad. But what are you going to do with it?
Yeah. No, there is a thing there. It's like feel all the feelings, don't like camouflage, whatever, but like also,
Right.
I don't know, like feel later. It's so fascinating that they both lost their job and you got to witness kind of like in hindsight, or did you
Mhm.
feel it in the moment that they were having, or is this more of like in hindsight you realized, oh, this household was having one experience and your household was having another?
Yeah, no, I totally saw it in the moment because I didn't understand it because I came from my dad. And so
Yeah.
my attitude would have been, oh, you don't deserve me. Like there's better, bigger things for me. Like that you're cutting me loose, you're giving me a gift, whatever is how I would have looked at it and how my dad looked at it. And so since I came from that, I didn't understand the weeping and the mourning and get a job, you do something, start your own company. There's so many things that you can do. So no, I was witnessing it in the moment. My husband and I were talking about it. I'm like, man, how can we help your family to see this isn't the end of the world? Like, it's going to be okay. Your dad will recover and do something else and all will be well. Like it's really fine. So it was very interesting to see this parallel yet opposite universe happening around me at the same time. But I love it that you're in my family. that you were like, no, I'm not going to stop moving. This isn't going to stop me. This isn't going to hold me back. It's going to propel me. Really is what it did, right?
It really is a series of missteps over and over and over and over. Not like missteps, but like people don't necessarily like talking about failure anymore, but like failure is feedback and like we fail forward. It really is not needing to know everything from A to Z before taking a step. My family likes to joke. Let me ask you a question. How do you eat your corn on the cob?
How do I eat my corn on the cob?
Yeah.
I do it in rows.
Oh, right.
Oh, yeah. How,
We,
how do you eat your corn on the cob?
we can agree to disagree. Like,
Do you go around?
oh
Are you in a
no,
round?
mine is just chaotic.
Oh,
There's like no rhyme or reason. So just funny fact, anybody listening or you yourself, like at your next family barbecue, just ask or observe. It is actually very funny. So at my dad's house, all of us on my dad's side of the family, we very chaotically ate our corn. And everyone on my stepmom's family very methodically eats it in rows or very clean,
yeah.
right? And it has nothing to do then with this why I am the way I am, or maybe it does, but it's an interesting observation, right? Like at the end of the day, we all eat the corn, but you don't, whether you prefer to or not, you don't need to have every row cleaned off or every section cleaned off before you go to the next. Like, and so I learned that you don't have to have all the answers. You don't need to dot all your I's, cross all your T's. Like so many of us hold ourselves back of fear of not being ready. The truth is, my grandfather was an entrepreneur and I lived with him right out of college. And he would say to me, why does not nobody want to work in my business? And my dad and my uncle did. But he was an engineer. So I'm fascinated by was it your dad who had the
Yeah.
plastics company?
Yeah.
Grandpa did like ball bearing manufacturing, like huge 5 foot, 6 foot ball bearings for cement mills, steel mills, and paper mills. And like huge companies like Timken wanted to buy him, but he never sold. And it turns out I did have the entrepreneurial gene in me, just not the engineering gene. My son got that, right?
Yeah.
Like, so I say that because the business was on my heart, but I wasn't going to ever act on it, Kim, which is
Mm.
crazy because I'm not better than anybody else. Just because I figured out how to lean into imperfect action doesn't mean A, I don't struggle, B, I don't have really hard days, C, like the financial stress we were under was second to none. And really, at the end of the day, I was too scared to start my own business because the safety net of my career, we were spending what we made, which is why when I lost my job, it was that much harder. And so it just made sense that when I lost my job, I like, this is my chance. But then about 8 months later, I took another job. And that's when you and I ultimately met in this season of life. And luckily I had negotiated that job so like I could continue to pursue a TEDx or my book stuff or whatever. But the job 4 months after starting it, it also didn't work out. And I was like, okay, the line in the sand is now clear. Like nobody else's opinions pay my bills. And I'm never looking back again. Like this is my calling. This is like how I'll have the best impact in life, the most fulfillment, the most joy, the most love was really by like serving others. But it's not, I just like for everybody listening, right? There's inspiration to be had from your dad's story and like my story, but it's also human your dad probably struggled and I struggle. The difference is we just keep moving forward.
Mm.
For the
Right.
like with positive mindset, like I lean into communities like the one you and I are in, or friendships like you and I have. We can't do it alone. We have to ask for help.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm so glad that you said that because it's so true. no man is an island, right? I mean, you can try to be, but why would you want to be? I mean, there's so many people who I don't think there's anything new happening to somebody. Like before you lost your job, Kristen, other people lost their jobs. And then so you can learn from them. Like, well, what did they do and how did they recover? Or before you started your business, other people have started businesses. So what can you learn from them? And and watch and like with parenting, what did you like? What didn't you like? What did you see that was good? Was you would change, right? And so, it's kind of the same thing. And so here you are, this much time later, which isn't that much time, and you are rocking it. And you are having an impact on people's lives, and you are glowing and happy and joyful. And I love it. I love it. What is life like for you now compared to really a couple years ago?
Yeah, two
2 years
two
and
years ago.
yeah, right, right.
2 years ago. Wow, it's
Yeah.
crazy. I like like okay, so 8-year-old Kristen would be so proud of 40-something-year-old Kristen because we just moved into the backyard of my marital home, the home that my ex-husband bought me out of. Basically, it is ironic just to proudly be like, I don't own the home anymore, and that's not a bad thing. Like it's all okay. It's really how you look at it's like the perspective change, right? Or like reverse engineering, like, woe is me, this isn't happening to me, it's happening for me. So my ex-husband, baby daddy, like he's allowed me to move into the backyard in a RV, and my kids and I are living in there half the time, and then they live next door with him and his family the other half of the time. And so combined, we have almost a half an acre in Southern California, and that is unheard of. And there are several adults and kids around who all love the children, and it really is all for their benefit. And we as adults are getting benefit from it also. So that is a huge positive shift. And that also on a personal level it wasn't a straight line. And I think that's the self-reflection from, oh, I love how you're like mentioning parenting. Like I have a lot of lessons to learn in my next life with how I parented my kids so far. All we can do is try to be better today, right? Like we're going to lose our cool, and then we just have to apologize and like do better tomorrow or do better in the next hour. And I think that's the same with work and life and marriage and divorce and everything. So 8-year-old Kristen would be very proud of me. Professionally, I'm coming out with my second book, Say Yes and Figure It Out. So excited for that.
Mhm.
And the reason, my dad just complimented me on the phone the other day. He's like, I love like Facebook love and LinkedIn share everything you post, right? I'm like, yeah, Dad, I know. I appreciate you. He's like, but there is something really special about Say Yes and Figure It Out. Like it's a cool topic, I think. And he was just going off for like 10 minutes about how he actually was like, this book is actually really cool. And I was like, yeah, because it can go into universities, it can go into elementary schools, it can go into corporations, it can serve entrepreneurs. The concept of Say Yes and Figure It Out, kind of how I'm living my life, and the 4-step framework can be applied everywhere. And then when I'm coaching other entrepreneurs how to make more money, take with what you have, what are you monetizing? How do you live in your imagination more, work smarter, not harder? The framework applies. So I teach strategies on high ticket offers, but at the end of the day, it's like, how do you can buy all the coaching, all the courses, all the books, but how do you actually apply when push comes to shove and you lose your job, God forbid, or you get divorced, or you go almost to bankruptcy, or right? This doom and gloom, like what's the worst that would happen? It really is like, what do we take of it? And like, how do we, like your dad did, how do you put one step? How do you make a decision that life's not over? Take one little tiny step, lean in and celebrate the heck out of every small win along the way. That's what creates a momentum and snowball and releases all the dopamine in our brain to be like, you've got this, Kristen, keep going.
Oh my gosh. So there's a couple things I love about what you just said. One is that your dad is so proud of you. Oh my gosh. So, parents out there, tell your kids you're proud of them. So often that's not something that that we say to our kids, we expect them just to know it. And, but there's nothing like, oh my gosh, when my dad would say those words to me, holy cow. I mean, I tear up just even thinking about it. I mean, it's so special. But also the whole concept of say yes and figure it out, because we so often want a book or a class or something that tells us how to do it, right? We want to know. There's all YouTube. You can, I mean, I fixed my toilet on YouTube, whatever you need it. You can find it on YouTube. You can get it done. And, but it's the saying yes part, I think, that can hold people back. Like, guy, am I capable? Can I really do that? Like, if somebody needs something, can I say yes? Or if I go this direction, can I really say yes to this direction if I don't know exactly the path that it's going to lead me on? So the whole say yes and figure it out. I want you to talk about that some more.
It's so cool because it's like we're so scared. We get in our own way. We have imposter syndrome. We compare ourselves to others, like our behind the scenes to somebody else's highlight reels. Like we impose all this self-doubt, all these internal beliefs we have, or these external beliefs that other people, like we talked about at the beginning of the episode, like, so they might mean well, but they say things to us that get stuck in our head. Somebody at the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey said to somebody else, who then shared with me, right, as it goes, Kristen is the girl who always posts selfies.
Oh,
right? And do you know that stopped me in my tracks for weeks about posting on social media?
wow.
Like, and even if they had said it, I actually know the person who said that to the person who said it to me, which is also crazy. Even if she had said it to my face, like, and she meant well, and maybe there was more context to it, and it's fine. Even if it was really good feedback, it still like stopped me in my tracks. And so we can't control that. We can only control what we choose to decide to do. And saying yes also means sometimes saying no. Okay, for clarification, because the decision at that point is no, that's not for me. And the saying, slow to hire, fast to fire.
Mm-hmm.
The same is true with like decisions, like make a decision. My ex-husband is quoted in the book for saying, indecision is worse than the wrong decision. So not making a decision at all, which is to actually your question or point, about the say yes, not making a decision, freezing, not moving, getting imposter syndrome is worse than making the wrong decision. So just like make a decision, take a step, lean in, and celebrate the fact that it's not the right decision.
Right. And now you know, because you wouldn't have known otherwise. And now you know that it wasn't the right way. But yeah, no, it's so true. It's so true. There are things like that do stop people from dreaming or stop people from living their dream, because they, whatever, are afraid of the unknown, right? The fear of the unknown.
Yeah. And what other people would think about them. Like, I was walking around my new old backyard the other day thinking, oh my gosh, most people would probably think this is crazy. Or maybe they're even talking about how crazy it is that I sold my portion of the house to my ex-husband and I'm now moving into the backyard. Like,
well, I think it's a movie. It's a rom-com of some sort. I don't know how it ends. If I figure out the ending.
Kim, here's our moment.
That's right.
Okay. Yes. Right. So 4 facts, but I honestly was like, wow. And I'm still learning. I need to figure out how to phrase this the best because I politely don't care.
That's so good. That's so good to be at that point. I heard somebody say recently, not that long ago, that at 20, you care what everybody thinks about you. At 40, you don't care anymore what people think about you, right? Big difference. And then at 60, you realize nobody's really thinking about you.
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah. So it's good. It's so good to come to a point where you're like, people are focused on their own lives, man. And if they're focused on your life, I don't know, maybe they find you entertaining. I don't know why you'd focus on somebody else's life. I mean, life is wonderful and as wonderful as you want to make it and full. And so, focusing on yourself and not focusing on others is probably a good thing. I mean, there's the Kardashians, of course, or whoever people focus on and want to live up to, but there's the neighbor and the friend who maybe think you're crazy or whatever. And that's okay to keep those comments to yourself because they can be disabling. Like you can freeze from comments like she's the girl that takes selfies, which I don't know, but so it's so good. It's so encouraging. And I agree with your dad. The message is so great. And the book is so great. Everyone should buy it. It's incredible. And I love it. And I love the message. And I love where you are now. I want you to talk about that. Like, so if you look back, it's always nice hindsight, right? Is 2020. So you look back and you could have still been in the same job that you were in, but you're not because they said you're not anymore. They told you that a couple years ago. And so what would life be like now had that day never happened and you were still in that position compared to where you are today?
Well, it's such an interesting question. I had spent 18 years officially in the language translation industry. I got in it in 2005 and it was just, 2023. And I worked several places. The industry is very incestuous, as they would say, like a lot of industries, market research industry, like I'm sure like big tech, right? People jump from company to company. So I'd spent like 6 years at one place, 2 years at another. I had been at my last company about 2.5 years when I got let go. And I had already started to write Be a Better Sales Leader. Did you wake up one day wanting to write Love Is, or did you always have your book on your heart? Was that something that was like ever since you were a little girl, you were like, I'm going to be an author?
Well, I've always liked to write. And so, over the years I've written and whatever, but the inspiration for Love Is came at a certain time in life, right? So it wasn't, I always liked to write, but the actual inspiration for that particular book came at a certain point in life.
Yeah. And mine did too. And I think it's more common, right? I mean, obviously two totally different reasons, but like also maybe not. I mean,
Yeah.
but so I didn't like to write. Like I was not a writer. My sister was an English lit major in college and went on to be a teacher and now an attorney. But I think there's people who have a book on their heart their whole life.
Mhm.
I was trying to become the chief revenue officer, and my CEO said, "You're not ready."
Mm.
And I remembered one of my mentors, they popped up like what they call the book camp. And I was like, oh, I wonder if I can still go to that. It was like so much more money than I thought it was going to be. And at that point, I was already barreling down the path that I decided I was going to write a book. I took a step, I leaned in, I celebrated. So this is the whole 4-step framework again. But March 1st of 2023, I started to write the book. I know because it was my birthday weekend. We went to the book camp. April 17th, I got let go from a VP of sales. And still, May 31st, it was Memorial Day. I was celebrating my grandpa, the engineer, the entrepreneur, the engineer, the day of the book launch. So May 31st, 3 months later, Be a Better Sales Leader came out as a bestseller, instant bestseller. And I was already 1.5 months into working for myself. Fired as a VP, launched the book. But had I not been let go, is the question. The book would have come out anyway. And I undoubtedly would have used it to unlock either the chief revenue officer job I wanted, or I would have started to slowly monetize my expertise on the side.
Yeah. Yeah. So you knew that where you were always looking to grow because that's who you are. You're not just satisfied with where you're at. You want to grow, you want to do more, you want to help more people, you want to impact the world, you want to leave the world better than the way you found it. You want to be a great example to your kids, right? You want to do all those things because you're driven that way, you're wired that way. And so, yeah, I mean, you probably, if they wouldn't let you go, you probably would have let yourself go. Uh, Probably not too much after that, maybe.
It would have been, that's why I read, like, it's really scary to make decisions like that when you have no money in the bank, when you're several $100,000 in the debt, renovating a home 2,000 miles away, like it now all of a sudden in the middle of a divorce that we chose to not make messy, right? So there was a lot of, but yet he's my biggest fan. I mean, not my big, like, well, I don't know. Like he's a really, like I always say we did not get divorced because he didn't support my goals or ambitions. Like I'm very lucky. He still is like, you've got this, you can do this, like a huge cheerleader for me. So yeah, I
Yeah.
think I would have done it on my own, but I would have been scared. Like I was on the ledge and I didn't know I needed to be pushed off. Like
Mm.
that's crazy. And at the same time, I loved my team. We had created a culture within our team. I knew I was capable of managing at the CRO level. I mean, now I'm a CEO, but like I knew I was capable of managing multiple millions of dollars of revenue as a quota. So yeah, I probably would have continued to pursue that, to be honest. And then maybe done some keynote speaking at TEDx, maybe come out with the book anyway.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah. Well, isn't it nice that you're in control of your own destiny, right? Like you get out of bed in the morning and go, what's today bring? Which is kind of a cool way to live. I enjoy it. I gotta say, every day is different and I love it. I love it.
I know. It's like today I stacked all of my meetings. Here's like a productivity hack so that this is spring break week. And yesterday I just spent with my kids all day. And today I'm here working. And then tomorrow I'm moving. Officially, the furniture is leaving and I'll take up full-time residence in my new home. But yeah, it's like, how do I choose the things that I want to do versus I have to do?
Right, right,
Or like
right.
what I want to wear instead of what I feel like I should be wearing.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So true. So true. That's so cool. So you are remarkable. I've known a few couples over the years that have had the relationship that you and your ex have, and uh, only a few, only a few. And I can tell you though that those kids, man, what a gift! What a gift you guys are giving your kids by living on the same land, right? Being together. They can come and see you whenever they want to see you. Sometimes your sons just need their mama, right? And sometimes they need their dad. And to know that he's right there, not in some other town, in some other state, in some other whatever, but he's right there, that you guys are there together doing the whole co-parenting thing and with these wonderful, cutest ever little boys is amazing. So kudos to you, because that should be your next book, is how to co-parent the right way. Because people struggle with that. It can be really hard.
Let's see if I have a book title written down. We were in Vegas celebrating my birthday like 2 years ago, me and my ex, like in the middle of our divorce. It was the last trip we took together, but we just used to love Vegas together so much. And he's like, here's your next book title. And he said something around those lines. So I should see if I will.
Oh,
But
funny.
I'm honored to hear that you do know other people. It works for us. And that was kind of when the girl who said Kristen post selfies, and like when the second job thing didn't work out and I stepped into the entrepreneur I really am today, like that is really where the line in the sand drew. Is like people talk about the why, but it's like for me it was nobody else's opinions pay my bills. And so what works for me best? Like how do I make all of this work for the greater good of me and the people in my immediate orbit, to be able to just like be in a rest and restore state so that we can then use our energy to impact and hopefully change the world. And I
Yeah.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, you're the poster child. So that's so cool. I love it. So is there a piece of advice, you had this entrepreneur grandpa, so maybe from him, your dad, from your mom, from somebody in your life, a piece of advice that has really stuck with you that you thought, man, I should just share that advice with the world on Kim's show. I should tell everyone that advice.
One of my mentors, all kudos to my family, etc. But one of my mentors says, and you know her, and it's not the one you're immediately thinking of, but the other one. Make it easy. Make it easy. Like, make it easy. Isn't that, I get the chills because even the advice itself is so easy. Ready, like brace yourself. I'm going to have this like really eloquent quote. No, it's like 3 simple words, make it easy. Everything,
Mhm.
business, family, just make it easy.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. My gosh. Yeah. We like to overcomplicate things. I
Yeah.
think. Yes. Yeah. And then look back and I know I then look back and laugh at myself, but I thought that it was more complicated than it needed to be, but make it easy. That really is good advice. That is good advice.
And
Yeah.
other than that, say yes and figure it out.
Right. 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 Which is the best advice. So how does make it easy reflect in your life?
Yeah. Well, I think it goes hand in hand with the say yes and figure it out, not to be cheeky or cheesy, but really it's when I realized that this framework is kind of everything I've always done, with not wanting to write a book to waking up to write the first book and getting let go from my job and all types of decisions from when I was, 8 on or newborn on, and all the impact I've seen my teams make or my friends have or other family members, like make it easy and say yes and figure it out. It's like, what's the easiest way? Why do we have to go A to Z chronologically? Like, what if there's a faster path? What if there's an easier way? What if we said yes, took a step, leaned in, celebrated the fact, like we joked about earlier, that that was actually a no, and now we start back over? Why do we have to have all of the answers figured out or all of the I's dotted and T's crossed before we feel confident to make a decision? Why not simply make that decision, make it easy and simply make that decision and then see what happens?
Mm,
And so really to me, like make it easy and say yes and figure it out. They go hand in hand, and it really is a really fun way. I was never, I had to get a lot of help. I know we're wrapping up, but like to be this person, and I appreciate it. Like I still have very bad days. But I was very angry. I was very bitter. I was very resentful. I was in my own way. My ego was through the roof a little bit because of the hormones from the kids and just how hard it was for me to apparently to have my own kids. Not physically, but like also just kids are hard. And then within the marriage itself, and then just the callous I had grown and life, right? I had to get a lot of help. And I always give my friend Dr. Andrea Vitz the credit. She has this program called Emotional Sobriety. And that was my make it easy moment. I finally was like, oh, this is the program that can help me get over myself. And it worked. And from then I was able to just like be at peace with living next door to my in-laws, or be at peace with dividing my children, be at peace with the divorce, be at peace with all these things I was just like really negative about. And that's where I think this concept of say yes and figure it out, and then the advice of just make it easy comes in. But it's
mm.
not about help, asking others, like we talked about earlier.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Right. People know things. You might as
Yeah.
well tap into it. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Okay.
no, I came home from the hospital with both of my children, and my mother-in-law wants to dote all over me, and I would be like, no. Like not
Mm.
even like no, but yes, but like no.
Yeah.
Very much making it, yeah, I very much made it hard. No, you cannot bring me berries. No, you cannot feed me. No, I do not need your help. I knew I needed her help a little more with the second one, but no, you can ask her, my ex. Like they wouldn't even say it because they're too kind, but I was not nice.
Mm.
That's the thing, right? I had to go through several ugly years to get to where I am now.
Yeah. But what a beautiful place you are now. And now you're helping people. How can people get in touch with you? And what do you want people to do to
Yes.
reach out?
The easiest thing is say yes and figure it out.com, because no matter what's there, sometimes it's a blank landing page, like enter your email for what's next. And sometimes pointing you to like a bunch of my other landing pages. It really is a very central place to find me, in the internet wild or on all the various social platforms that I'm on. So yeah,
Perfect.
sayyes.com.
Yeah. So everybody say yes and figure it out. Like, how genius is that? But yet simple, because you keep it simple. I love it. I love it. Kristen, this has been a joy. Thank you so much for agreeing to be on the show. Thank you for all the wisdom and sharing and, being so vulnerable and open, because, we need to be like that with each other. That's how we learn. So I love it. And so thanks again. Thank you so much. I love you, my friend. And thank you for joining us. And until we see each other again, be blessed.